Hello, welcome back to Cubbyhole Conversations. This Cubbyhole Conversations is brought to you by nowhere near enough sleep. I am so tired today. It is also brought to you by having just finished an hour and a half of reading I almost said religious, but I'm not into religion necessarily, as that term may imply, Christian forum discussing addressing things like woke or abortion or whatever, and how we as Christians are supposed to respond to those things. And really the core part of the whole forum ended up being, pardon the curtain moving, my dog is moving around. The whole thing really ended up being about, what do you choose to argue or debate, and why do you choose to do that? And why did it take me an hour and a half to go through this? It took me an hour and a half to go through this because people had just some amazing responses. And then the author of the original article would respond back and ask questions and challenge. And so it was really intriguing to read everyone's responses. And I got some really good ideas as far as even just like parenting. And what I realized most of all was, like, I'm a crappy arguer. So many of you have heard me say, many of you who are close to me have heard me say, we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this. And I've had people tell me, hey, that sounds like a cop-out. And to some degree, I think that it is a cop-out, but I don't look at it as a cop-out. I look at it as, I'm done having this conversation. So really what I should say is, instead of we're just going to have to agree to disagree, I should really say, I don't think you and I are going to come to an agreement on this, and I don't want to continue this discussion at this time. So where I am saying that it's a cop-out is that it's an easy way for me to shut down the conversation without me owning why I want to shut down the conversation. So that's something for me to work on. So all of you who've heard that from me for the last, well, I wasn't talking 46 years ago, but since I've been talking, I will be trying to work on that. Please don't call me on it. I'm sure I'll be aware that I've done it. So I've realized that about myself. And then I also realized that I tend to be a person who listens and responds and listens and responds and stays very calm until you like really back me into a corner. And then instead, like, I just go from the sleeping bear to the bear that's going to rip your head off, and I just go off on people. And so I think part of that is that I don't respond well during the conversation in order to stop myself from getting so backed into the corner. And part of that is because I am very much a peacemaker and connector type of person. And so relationships are super important to me. And what I struggle with is being a people pleaser instead of being the connector and peacemaker. Like, I think it's okay. I think God does call some of us to be people who calm a situation, or who connect people with other people and make relationships stronger in that way, or even, staying connected with people in order to keep relationships strong. I think some of us are built that way. God built us that way. But he did not build us to be people pleasers. We're supposed to be pleasing God, not pleasing man. And so I think sometimes that line is just too gray for me, and I need to be more aware of it in arguments and debates. I really prefer the term debate versus argument, because when I get into an argument, I tend to just want to be like, I'm done with this. I don't like the anger. I don't like the animosity. I don't like the way it feels. Versus a debate where it's like, well, I say this and you say that, but it's not getting heated, right? And obviously that comes from my own brokenness and my own woundedness, and I get that. I don't know that aspect would ever change for me, because I just feel like that's kind of who I am as far as not just woundedness, but even if those wounded parts all got completely healed, I think I would still prefer debate over argument. And what else was I going to... I don't really know where this was going to go. So I'm going to pause for a second while I think. Okay, one of the things that was brought up repeatedly throughout the many quotes or posts was the idea that we are not called to fight every battle. And so it is okay to step out of some arguments and step out of some conflicts and not address every social thing that comes up that you may not personally agree with, but it may not be your bandwagon. It may not be the thing that God's wants you to be standing on, right? It might not be that particular thing. So some people are all up in arms about one thing, and some people are up in arms about other things, and we're not all called to do the same thing or we're also not called to like address every social issue or every Christian issue or every political issue, right? We're not called to attack and address every single thing. Unfortunately, I think social media has allowed us to do that. Like it allows us to have a forum to just spew out our opinions and thoughts and even scientific backing or whatever, or historical backing or whatever you want to use there. I just didn't want to leave that as just opinion, because a lot of times you actually do have grounded foundational facts that you can impart there. But we don't need to comment on everybody's post. We don't need to post on everything that's coming through our intake. Doesn't all have to go back out. And so one of the things was just, what are you wired for? What did God create you to do? What did he put on your heart as your burden to bear, as your cross to carry, as your platform to stand on? And then make those your arguing points or your debating points, or however you want to phrase that. So I thought that was a really good point. I do feel like there are some people who just are at everything. And another point was that there are breakers and builders, and I forgot what the third one was, but breakers are basically people who negatively comment on every single thing that they don't agree with. So if it comes up, they're breaking, they're tearing it down. And then there's builders who are trying to build things up, obviously. So instead of looking at everything as a negative and going at it from that perspective, they take things from a perspective of, well, how can I fix it? How can I help? And so I thought that was interesting. I wish I could remember the third one, but I'd have to look that up. So I'll just put it down in the little down here. I'll write it. And then as far as my personal thoughts on like, what do I fight for? So I literally couldn't even answer the question. I was like, I can't. My comment thing on it was so long because I read everybody else's stuff, and then I was like, sorry, my throat's great. I read everybody else's stuff, and then I was just, my head, I'm an overthinker, so my brain was just going absolutely crazy. And then I was like, okay, well, what would I fight for? And I decided that really I am a person who believes that everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And I am a person who believes that if I want to be extended that freedom for me to believe in Jesus Christ, for me to believe that homeschooling is okay, for me to believe that abortion is wrong, for me to believe that vaccines should be a personal choice, if I want to have the freedom to believe and express those things, then I need to be someone who allows others to have the freedom to believe and express their opinions, their beliefs, their thoughts. And so I very much base my relationships and discussions on that, unless it's someone I love who's hurting themselves. Then I get a little more emphatic. I'll say emphatic. Working on that. I'm working on that. So with that in mind, then I went on to say, so I wouldn't, for the most part, I might have a conversation or a debate, if you want to get that detailed with it, with someone over a topic. So when would I actually fully like fight to the death for something? And I just don't know that I would. I will speak the truth, and I will let it simmer, and I will, if I'm asked my opinion, I'll share it. I don't know that there's anything I would fight to the death. Let me rephrase that. There are things I would fight to the death for, as far as like if you came at my son, I'm going to fight you, physically fight you. And if I die, I die. If you die, you die, right? Like, there are people I will fight to the death for. But as far as an argument to the death fighting for, I just don't think I would. If you came at me and said, well, Jesus isn't God, and he's not the only way to heaven, and everything you believe is a lie, I would probably say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't agree with you. So I wouldn't then just get into a fight with you, right? Anyway, I don't really know what is going to resonate with you, if anything, on this. I'm obviously still very much thinking through it myself. I will say that people are my top priority, and that if it's someone I love or someone that's close to me, I mean, I love all people, right? Like, I'm not saying that I love people in general, but I'm saying, like, close to me, people who are close to me. And if they're doing something that I think will harm them, excuse me, that's a conversation I'm gonna be much more demanding in and argumentative in than a social issue in general. So I'm still figuring out what part of this is good and what part of this needs refinement. And by no means do I think my way is the right way. I think everybody has their own path they have to walk on. And I think for me, a lot of times lately I've been walking along the path, next to it, not on it. Like, I'm super close. I can see the path. I'm really close. I'm following along. It's like Highway 99 parallels I-5, right? I'm on 99, but I'm supposed to be on I-5. So I'm trying to find that on-ramp. Anyway, I hope that this wasn't just a bunch of crazy ramblings by a 46-year-old woman who's still trying to figure out life, but maybe it was. In any case, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you next time. Have a blessed day. Bye.